Willow Creek Springs presents Healthy Living with your host, Joe Grumbine.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Healthy Living Podcast. I am your host, Joe Grumbine, and I have back with us today Dr. Robert Hoffman as we continue the conversation about overcoming cancer and other obstacles. Robert, welcome back to the show. We're so grateful.
Thank you, Joe. Glad to be here.
It's so important for anybody who's listening, and maybe this is your first time, and maybe you've been diagnosed with cancer, or maybe a loved one has. And I can tell you, you're going to get hit with this flood of information, and some of it's going to be good, and some of it's going to be bad, and you're going to be overwhelmed, and you're not going to know who to listen to or where to go. And all I can say is put your head down and start talking and start listening and look for some direction. And I was blessed in my search to find Dr. Hoffman as I'm trying to find an answer to my problems. And I was blessed enough to be able to be invited to join the Sunday afternoon call where people from around the world discuss their experience and their solutions and their problems with cancers. And Dr. Hoffman's been in this research and discovery and working with these people for more than 50 years. And wow, we're just so grateful that you're here with us and helping to guide this. And for anybody who thinks they know about cancer, you don't. Nobody knows about cancer unless you're really spending time with it. And the truth is, it's a unique experience for everybody involved. And there's things that are grouped together and types of things, but every person has their own experience, and to learn that and to still try to find some guidance through it and try to find some mile markers and guideposts and things to do and not do. And Dr. Hoffman, you've been so instrumental in pointing out the importance of logic and looking at the studies and staying with the truth and not getting caught up with somebody being excited about a thing or noticing this or that. It's nothing wrong with studying it, but if we're going to pass information along, it needs to be vetted. It needs to be provable. You need to be able to do it again and not just say, oh, I saw this great thing and we can just do it. That's so important because there's so much information out there and so many people peddling, products and solutions and tools, and some of it's got validity and some of it's snake oil, and sometimes for one person or another something might work and for another person it might not work. And you just have opened a door that we can communicate amongst ourselves and share our experiences along with the guidance of you and other doctors that have been joining the calls. And man, it's so important. So I just want to preface this. If you're listening to this and you don't have any answers, get a hold of me. I put the link to the Sunday meeting in the show notes here. We welcome you to join us. And, we're finding answers together. This is a wonderful group from people around the world, and they're people that are caretakers to people that were diagnosed 4 years ago with stage 4 terminal cancer, and they're still walking the earth with us and sharing their experiences. So powerful, powerful stuff. So we left off and things are getting interesting over here. I finally got the wake-up call that I needed, and I am treating this with the urgency that I should have treated it with a year ago. And as much as I wish I could go back in time and change some things, I can't. So we're going at it now. Yesterday, I had an appointment with Dr. Castro. And when I first met Dr. Hoffman, that was the first thing he said is, you got to talk to Dr. Castro, before we really even got off to a deep conversation. And I reached out, and it took me a couple of weeks, but we got the appointment. Went out there yesterday. So to bring everybody up to speed, I've got this squamous cell carcinoma. I got a giant tumor sticking out of my neck. It wants to kill me. We're going after it hard as we can. I'm chasing down rabbit holes, trying to find answers. The chemo people want to dose me hard. The radiation people want to dose me hard. Dr. Hoffman has a concept, and it's working with a methionine restricted diet in concert with an enzyme called methionase, which helps to sequester or block out of the blood this amino acid that cancer just feeds on and thrives on and loves. And if we can restrict it, it can render the cancer in a little bit of a precarious spot where some of these treatments can work very well as opposed to maybe not working well enough. And it can also help the body to recover from these therapies and treatments much quicker. And it can give people a chance at life where they might not have had one. It can give people a chance at quality of life where they might not have had one. So Dr. Castro looks at my chart and immediately begins to go after me because I sat for almost a year from the time that I talked to the first doctor before I did anything about it. And I explained to him that when I first went to seek treatment, this was a fraction of its size. I went to find a doctor. I've been a healthy guy most of my life, so I never went to doctors. I didn't even have health insurance. So I went and found myself some health insurance, went and found a doctor and went and talked to him. And he gave me this advice that, I didn't know what else to do. I listened to the guy and he said, well, you got this giant tumor sticking out of your neck, but you're a real healthy guy. So in my opinion, you probably don't have cancer. And, when a doctor tells you the thing you want to hear, well, you generally take it and accept it and say, all right, we're good. And that was the dumbest thing I could have done. And for anybody who has a suspicious test result, a suspicious bump, a suspicious coloring, a suspicious node of any kind, go get it looked at, get it tested, find out what you got. Don't do what I did because
rule it out.
Yes.
Rule it out.
Yes. Yes. And that's huge. And I wish I had known you before because I would have ruled it out, but I didn't. So here we are. And so Dr. Castro continued to talk to me and I walked with him through this regimen of therapies I'm working on myself right now. Obviously, when you find out something that's life-threatening is after you go after it any way you can. In the medical world, well, you can try to set an appointment, but it takes time. You got to go through a process and you just get diligent and you learn it and get in there and get those appointments. But meanwhile, I'm doing a lot of things. I switched my diet. I now am on a very low methionine diet and I take methionase. I've been on a low sugar, low carb diet for a while, which doesn't leave me a lot to eat. And so I'm making modifications to that, trying to not lose weight. I told the doctor that I was been taking cannabis oil and I've been taking it for several months. And he said, stop that. And that's the first person that pointed to me. And it was only because he had such experience with this type of cancer that he knew that. So the cancer I have is caused by HPV virus. And it's a virus that most everybody has in their system. And some people it gives cancer to. And that's what happened to me. And when a certain type of cancer is caused by a certain driver, there's different systems in place, different things the cancer is likely to succumb to, different things it can ward off. It's very unique. And it turns out that this cancer that I have, the cannabis oil that I was taking can actually affect the switches that it has in a way that doesn't help me. And so in an effort to endure this therapy that was difficult for me anyways, I was not helping myself. So I am taking him, and he showed me a study that backed it up. And I said, okay, I stopped that. That was easy. So I got a clearer head in my head today than I've had in a while. And I'm hoping that he's right with that. The other thing he did is he gave me this paper that he had written last year. And it was about the repurposing of 3 drugs specifically for the type of cancer that I have, or an HPV-driven cancer. So there's this one drug, and I don't have the name of it sitting in front of me, but I will find it. And he says it's an old drug. It's like aspirin, basically, as far as its inertness to most people. And he said it has almost no side effects, and it can specifically target one of the pathways that this kind of cancer uses to upregulate itself, to cause it to metastasize and move around and grow. And there's a second compound that is from a very commonly known herb called ashwagandha. And the thing that's interesting to know about herbs is they have lots of compounds in them. So just because you have this one herb doesn't mean, and they extract it this one way, doesn't mean you're going to get what you want out of it. But he has a company that makes this product that he's recommended that contains this high amount of this one compound from ashwagandha. It's going to shut off another system. And then the third is curcumin, which is, turmeric. People know turmeric. And I have access to a really high bioavailability form of that. So he's recommended these three treatments. But here's the thing where things get really dicey. So they want to blast me with radiation 6 weeks in a row, 5 days a week. They want to hit me with heavy chemo 1 day a week during the time that I'm getting the radiation. So they want to hit me with both things. And I believe that that's what I need to do. But I'm hoping to figure out a way to do it in a way that isn't going to have to take so much radiation on. Because if you don't know anything about radiation, and I didn't, but I'm learning, it affects your bones and your teeth in a very dramatic and negative way, especially if you get high doses of it. And that's what they're looking to do to me. And it's right on my neck, which is right in my mouth. And so I had to go to a dentist to get basically an appointment to see if I'm a candidate for this radiation they want to give me. And the dentist looked at me and he said, they took some x-rays and he says, well, you got an abscess in one of your teeth. And basically, I think you should get all your teeth pulled out. And I'm not really a big fan of that, as you might imagine. So he just said he's not sure what to do right now. He's given it some thought. He's got access to all my records. He's getting ready to retire, so he doesn't want to take me on, but he's looking at referring me to another dentist. And that's kind of where I'm at. So what's your thoughts, Doc?
So what did Dr. Castro say about your medical oncologist recommending cisplatin plus radiation? What did he say about that?
He said that he believes that could work. And he's basically prepping me for a difficult road. It's not going to be an easy way forward. And he was
in addition would take the three items that he suggested.
Correct.
And you would stay on methionine restriction.
Correct. He was very
that all makes sense to me.
Okay. He did tell me that you should have told me about eggs more. Your
You
chart
should have said what?
That you should have told me to keep away from the eggs specifically. And I know he was just messing around, but one of the things
eggs are, just loaded with methionine. Just
just
off
like
the
meat,
menu.
Yeah, there wasn't any worse than meat.
They're off.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's kind of where we're at. He has me coming back to see him in a month, and I'll be right in the middle of my treatments at that time.
Okay.
So
I think this is good, Joe. I feel very reassured.
Okay. So it's he chastised me pretty hard for sitting there for a year.
Yeah.
And so be it. I deserve it.
Well, my mother always would say to me, you shoulda, you coulda, but
exactly.
you did.
Exactly. That's what I told him. I go, I own it. It's on me. I got to pay for it. Let's solve it. And that's all I care about right now. I'm very relieved that I don't have to take the cannabis oil anymore, because that was really hard. It's really hard on you. And it's not hard in a radiation kind of way. It's just hard to function when you're just, fuzzy headed all the time. So I'm looking forward to getting my brain back, and that's good. I have started making ozonated glycerin, and I wondered what your thoughts are on that.
I know nothing.
Okay.
And I could just say my general principle, if it doesn't bother you, it's okay.
Yeah, and then that's what I'm following along. The research I'm following is coming mostly from a veterinarian out of Oregon, and he's
Okay,
doing
I mean, you know, if
good
it's
work.
not giving you side effects,
There's virtually no
it's
side
okay.
effects and a lot of good things it can do. So they're starting to show some peer-reviewed studies. It's starting to get seen, but it's just like methionine. There's no money in it, and nobody's
No,
going to
I get
go.
it, Joe. I
Yeah.
get it. I get it. The most important thing I think right now, go on the 3 items that Dr. Castro recommended and start your chemo radiation.
Mm-hmm. And what's your thoughts about the teeth? You know, it's a pretty, you know, my hope and
Okay, you have one abscess.
yeah.
Well, go to a dentist and have him do a root canal or whatever they do.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking
I
just to
mean,
deal
it's
with
a
it.
nothing. Go do
Yeah.
it before all this crapola starts. So
Yeah.
get it out of the way.
Yeah. But this dentist that I talked to is thinking that he's entertaining the notion of pulling all my teeth out. And and have you
All
heard
your
about
teeth
that?
out. You
Yeah,
got
that's
one
what,
abscess.
well, he's saying that after you get that radiation, if you have a problem with your teeth afterward, it's very difficult to solve. And what's your experience with high doses of radiation and, you know, people getting dental work done?
I don't have. I
Okay.
don't know. I think the person who knows most about that will be the
Yeah.
radiologist.
Right.
And I would get that abscess done with another dentist.
Hmm.
It's a nothing.
Right.
Just get it done.
Okay.
Get it reamed out of there
Yeah.
before you start, and do it quick because you need to start your chemo radiation ASAP.
Yeah. They've got me scheduled the 25th I begin. So
All
that's
right. So today's the 13th or something.
yeah,
Get the
yeah.
tooth fixed.
Yep, yeah, we're just about 2 weeks out. So yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking. I'm thinking that's, you know, it's really strange. You know, I'm thinking differently than I've ever thought before. You know, I had these strong
Well,
opinions.
you're talking to good people. You're talking to you're talking to uh, real people.
Yeah,
With Dr. Castro, terrific. Your medical oncologist, um, and with whom he agrees, which is terrific. Um, so it's time to get started
yeah.
ASAP.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, that's where I'm at. What I'm doing right now is just working on building my strength and you know, trying to get as much weight on me as I can before I get started. I know it's going to be
And I think you should, on the next Zoom, talk to Dr. XMA and
yes,
see about uh, the fasting around the chemo and around the
yes,
radiation.
yes. That's
That he he does that himself. He's
yes.
read tons of papers on it. It seems that's a very important to reduce the side effects and perhaps increase the efficacy.
I agree.
Fasting around the chemo, fasting around the radiation.
I agree. And I think another thing is, you know, I grow a lot of vegetables and I'm going to be making green juices and things to, you know, just to
There
drink to
you
get
go. There
nutrition
you
and,
go.
you know, high quality nutrition, stuff that I know is clean and good and
Yeah.
you put energy into. What's your thoughts? I mean, you know, we've been talking about the science and you know, the studies and the facts, but you know, there's so much to the human condition that can't be measured like this, you know, your spirit, your
Well, Joe, I think the spirit is so important. You know, when the oncologist tells you you're going to die in 3 months, you die in 3 months.
right.
They're always right because they
Yeah,
kill your spirit.
right.
So spirit and hope are really, really critical. And you got it.
I got it. You bet I do.
And you just talked to one of the great people, Dr.
Yes,
Castro.
yes.
So, um, yeah, your hope and your spirit and your attitude, I think are really important.
No, I totally agree. And you know, I'm even going so far. I've got a vacation planned in June, and I'm going to keep going. We're gonna go up to the mountains, and I'm gonna sit by a lake, and it doesn't matter if I'm weak or not. I'm gonna go up there, and I'm gonna just get away, and you know,
There
see
you go. So you
nature.
got a really great thing to look forward to.
Exactly, exactly. Get through this month, and then the next month I'll be able to relax a little bit. Um,
Sure.
you know, these are I can't explain how important. Like I've worked with cancer patients for 30 years in the work that I do, and I've never been approached the way I'm approaching this, because I think most people, they just, you get hit with these just magnanimous situations, and the brain, it's just, you can only process so much sometimes. I think people get overwhelmed when they, just get hit. You got to do this, you got to do that. Now you got to pay for this.
Joe, this is all about signal to noise.
Yes.
And I think Dr. Exame on our Zoom call,
Hmm.
whom people will love, put it this way: just go with the level of evidence. If something doesn't have a high level of evidence, just tune it out.
Yes.
It's just somebody saying something.
No, I think that's huge. And I think another thing, and it's maybe the most difficult thing with cancer, like if you're dealing with an infection or an injury or a some kind of disease that, is a standard type of a disease, whether it's a virus or a bacterial, whatever, they act in a predictable way generally, right? And so there's
Because it usually there's a clear cause and effect.
right.
That unfortunately we don't know this about cancer. We're not at that level of knowledge. It's a much more complex disease. It's not, I got this infection, I take this antibiotic and I'll be okay next week.
It's
Cancer is
not.
a million times, a billion times more complicated.
Yes, and that's important for people to realize. So again, for people who are listening for the first time, you got this little spot on your skin, or you notice this cough that wouldn't go away. You go to the doctor and they are not sure. Keep looking, keep probing.
Well, and you can insist on a biopsy.
Yes, yes. And
It's one thing to look at it from when it's in you, and it's another thing when it's a sample of it is taken out and it's sliced and diced and stained all the right way and seen under a very high-powered microscope, and can make a definitive diagnosis. And
and and it's huge, because as I'm learning more, I'm not a medical student. I haven't been in school in 40 years. It's hard to process all this volume of information that I'm coming, but you just do it. You learn.
yeah, and
And-
you tune out the noise.
yeah, and that's really what I think is starting to happen. And you
If
gave me
there's not a lot of level of evidence, is hey, I read this in Jane McClellan's book, and I know this guy, and he did so good when he took cannabis oil, and
right,
there's no level of evidence there. Tune it out.
right, exactly. And that's it's a hard thing to accept when you have strong opinions about things that are based not on evidence. And I think a lot of people have that. I had that to some degree,
Yeah, we all do. But
you know.
when we have cancer, we can't mess around.
Exactly. And that is more and more the lesson or the message that I have for people. Don't wait. Don't wait. Don't
Right.
wait.
And it's not dealt with Dr. Feelgood.
No,
That ain't the way it works.
no, no. And the thing is that these therapies that people hear about and see, they may have value. It's not that they don't. It's just that when you find out you have a condition that is going to affect your life and your ability to live, it's not the same as a common cold or a whatever, a bump on your nose. This is really something that needs to be explored as deep as can, and weighed out. And with every, what I'm finding is that with every solution, there's a set of problems that have to be looked at. And it comes down to this balance of the right amount of solutions with the least amount of problems. And I think that you walk away with the least amount of damage and the most amount of good, I think. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree.
It's
You've got a definitive plan now. You've worked your way through to it.
yes, yes. And I think that that's really what all of this has been about. I'm hoping, to The frustrating thing for me is I wish I could just have 30 more days, you know,
No, that's
but,
just procrastination,
but I
Joe.
don't. Well, no, that I could go back 30 days ago and have done some things then that I didn't do.
No, that's okay. You're
Yeah,
gonna do what you're gonna do. It's good.
exactly. And I feel confident. I don't have a sense of doom. I feel confident I'm gonna come out this.
No, no, you can have a very uh, uh, you have a very good prognosis.
Yes, I agree. I agree. So I'm really I'm hoping that these conversations will help people that are going through a similar confusing journey to help them to find their way to answers. And I'm not saying my answers are your answers. Please don't consider what the things that I'm saying as it affects you. I'm saying look at the methods and the ways I'm asking questions and the people I'm talking to. And anybody that is in my network now that I'm making available, they've all said that they're here to help and they want to help. And anybody that's helped me, I'm glad to put in touch with, anybody who needs it. It's sort of part of this. I don't know. I feel like there's this awareness that's starting to happen in small groups that hopefully we're bringing about. So
Good.
what you're looking at a lot of things from a point of view that's unique. You've been studying this process, this methionine and methionase reaction, people that are dealing with this huge amount of different problems, and you're watching from your point of view, you get to see how this one thing, or maybe narrow down that how this one thing is affecting, meaning restricting the methionine in the diet and adding the methionase enzyme into the diet. And all these cancers are so different. You got a lot of people in this group that have prostate cancer. There's lung cancers. There's breast cancers. There's lymph cancers, blood cancers, all different types of things. And then in my case, I've got this squamous cell thing. What can you say from your point of view that you're seeing that only that perspective could give you?
Well, I try to keep very focused on methionine restriction,
Mm-hmm.
and then what we're finding out in the lab and what we're finding out from the patients about what we need to add on to it to make it better.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be taking cisplatin. We've probably published almost 10 papers showing cisplatin and methionine restriction are very synergistic. Good. We're finding, for example, that non-standard drugs are synergistic with methionine. Ivermectin,
Mm-hmm.
we've seen it in the lab, really nice, and the patients are taking it. Again, it's not a trial. It's a case by case, but seems to be having good effects.
And I'm taking that as well.
So, right, exactly. So we're learning and learning, but what I've learned over the half century working on methionine restriction, all cancers are methionine addicted. And so that's the basic. And then we add from there. And the aggressive cancers, of course, need more than just methionine restriction, because the way we do methionine restriction, we can't completely restrict it.
Right.
So we need other therapies, and we're finding every chemotherapy we've ever tested is synergistic with methionine restriction. Good. Now we're finding new things. Ivermectin. Maybe we're looking at another new thing that the patients can start soon. Chloroquine. Good.
Mm-hmm.
The new items that Dr. Castro is suggesting for you, I don't know about, but I'm sure they have great potential.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think
so that's what we're learning. So I keep focusing. Methionine restriction is the basic. All cancers are methionine addicted, and I think it's due to the very essence of the cancer. Why they're methionine addicted is that's the basic of cancer itself. So I think in those terms, that's my basic, and I build on it.
Mm-hmm. And I guess, in your gut, like we don't know the answer, but what do you think is behind this connection? Like, I mean, do you think that there's going to be some kind of a breakthrough discovery that shows a mechanism that can be targeted, why it needs this methionine so much?
We know at least some reasons why the cancer cell is misusing the methionine, overusing it and misusing it. We know that. Well, we kind of knew that 40 years ago, but we're knowing it in more detail now. What I'm thinking now is that the cell gets reprogrammed, and the way it expresses its genes, and that the essence of that reprogramming is to become methionine addicted, and that's starts to make the cell to be cancerous. I know that that's very broad and not detailed, but we don't know that much. But
Right.
I think it's all about, not all about, but it's basically about reprogramming.
Mm-hmm.
Reprogramming the way the cell uses its genes.
It seems that as the mechanisms that the cell uses when it's mutating, it goes from a healthy normal cell to this different type of cell that acts different.
I don't think it's a mutation thing, Joe. I think that
Okay.
the cancer cells accumulate a lot of mutations, but I
Mm-hmm.
think this is secondary to the
Okay.
fact that they've been reprogrammed. Now, what causes that reprogramming? There's a mystery. I mean, we getting to know a little bit, smoking, all these carcinogenic items, lifestyles,
Mm-hmm.
and how does the cell become reprogrammed? What starts it? That's a mystery.
Got it.
But I think it's important to think in that direction. If you're thinking about, oh, cancer is just the mutations, that was been the thinking the last 50 years and hasn't gotten us anywhere.
Right.
So I think we start to think about reprogramming, and how does it all start? Well, we don't know. But
Right.
just thinking in that, I think, is the right way of thinking.
Okay.
When you think about the sun going around the earth and thinking that way, you don't get anywhere. When people started thinking, hey, wait a minute, maybe the earth goes around the sun. We don't really understand it yet. But that was the beginning of a great revolution in understanding gravity, understanding how the planets go around the sun, etc. So it's very important to think in the right direction. If you're thinking in the wrong direction, as people sometimes say, the wrong paradigm,
Mm-hmm.
never going to get anywhere. So in my day, in my beginning of cancer research, all cancers were caused by viruses. That hit a terrible dead end.
Right.
And, maybe a couple cancers are, but the vast majority, no.
Right.
And so that hit a terrible dead end. Then it's got to be all this mutation and oncogenes, and that's never worked out. It's never had any therapeutic benefit. It's just was the wrong way of thinking.
Got it.
So now we're thinking more about reprogramming, big global changes happening in the cancer cell. I think it's the right way. And I think if we're thinking in that way, we're going to learn things that are going to help us.
That's another thing I forgot to mention. He is going to do a genetic workup of my biopsy.
That's right. And he signs his letters, genomically yours.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good sign off.
That's a big deal.
Well, it is. And that's his thing. When he's a genomics guy, and it's great.
Yeah, I think that's it. The hope that I have with him most especially is that he has, it seems, a wealth of experience with the condition that I specifically have. And
Well,
that,
and he's a great expert, and he's had lots of patients with squamous cell carcinoma.
right.
He knows how they behave.
Hmm.
Um,
Exactly.
and the most important thing, he's blessing your basics,
Yes.
the chemo radiation with cisplatin. And he's blessed that. And I think that has a very big chance of working, and a greater chance because you're on methionine restriction. You're going to
Hmm.
start taking his Dr. Castro's items as well.
Correct.
It's all going to help make it work better.
I agree. Now, as I'm walking into this thing, it's kind of like to prepare for this, you have to make yourself as strong as you can, as give yourself as much reserves as you can, because this is going to deplete everything you got. And
I don't think it's going to be that bad. It's
good.
not going to be fun, but
No,
you're gonna get through it. Okay.
good. That's what I'm planning to do. And I I I don't mind bracing for the worst. I'm gonna
It's not
assume.
gonna it's not gonna knock it to the floor.
Good.
It's not gonna be fun, and probably you're gonna have some bad days, and I would guess your medical oncologist has some things to take to make you feel better.
Yeah.
Um, all the above.
Right. All right. And I guess the biggest difficulty that I'm staring at right now, which is that challenge that everybody's going to have when walking the way that we're walking with this restriction diet, is trying to keep enough weight on you while you're going through.
Well, Joe, is you can cheat a little bit because you're on methionase. You can
Right.
always take a little extra methionase.
Yeah.
Little potatoes, little rice. Keep the
I'm gonna
weight up.
probably go after
Sprinkle
this.
that olive oil real heavy. You'll
Mhm.
keep your weight up. People
Okay.
keep their weight up.
Good. 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 That was really
No,
one of my.
nobody has starved to death on methionine restriction.
Good, good, good. All right. Well, I feel a lot better. I tell you what, every time I talk to the group, it doesn't matter how heavy the burden has been. It always feels like just talking about things, looking at it from a point of view that is, well, it's just practical. We're just being frank and practical.
You've got a group all going through similar things.
Exactly. And that's huge.
That's the strength of our group. And
Yes,
we're the patients are all so innovative. So this is the strength, and
yes.
innovative, supportive.
And sharing these real experiences. So you got people that are dealing with cancer that are willing to experiment on themselves. We're all doing it. We're all trying things and
Yeah.
trying to get results. And I think that it shows a certain type of spirit to be able to be innovative, to be able to step outside maybe the safety zone and say, well, I'm willing to. I think there's something here. There's a pioneer sort of spirit, and I think that's what I really like about you and this group, is that people are, there's not, it's not a fear-based conversation. It's a solution-based conversation, and
Yes.
it's powerful. And I'm so grateful to be in it. I'm so grateful that you have welcomed me and agreed to participate on this program. I think you're helping a lot of people find their way, and I
Well,
think that.
I hope so. And as I say to the folks watching this, come join our Zoom, because the
Yes,
biggest help is from the other cancer patients.
100%. All right, doctor. Well, thank you so much for joining
Thank
us.
you, Joe.
Glad I was able to share this with you, and
Me too. And I'm so glad you saw Dr.
I
Castro.
am
And you
too.
got a real plan, and you're going to go see him in a month.
Yep.
And that's terrific. Get that tooth fixed. It'll
Yep.
be a 1 hour deal, and you're ready to go.
Fantastic. All right, Robert. Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Joe. I'll see you Sunday.
I will see you Sunday. All right, guys. Thank you.
And I hope to see a lot of your viewers too.
I'm hoping they're going to start rolling in.
They will.
All right. Have a good evening.
You too, Joe.
All right. Thank
Bye,
you for
everybody.
all the support.
This has been another episode of the Healthy Living Podcast. We produce this show so that people can share their stories, people that have overcome obstacles, people that are undergoing obstacles. We're building a community of health-minded individuals. If you're interested in supporting the show, please leave a review on the platform you're listening to it on. If you're interested in becoming a guest, please send an email to itsjoegrumbine@gmail.com, or you can send a note into the notes section of the podcast. All right. Well, thank you for supporting this show, and we hope you've enjoyed it.